You've been misled for decades. They told you that touching yourself would make you weak, that it would drain your masculinity, kill your desire, ruin your erections. Maybe you even heard it was shameful, selfish, or something a real man should grow out of. But here's the truth. Those lies didn't just embarrass you. They may be quietly damaging your health. I'm Dr. James Ellison, urologist and men's health specialist. For over 30 years, I've helped men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond reclaim their sexual confidence, vitality, and sense of self. And what I've seen time and again is this. It's not aging, and often not even illness, that's robbing men of their energy and performance. It's misinformation. Quiet, toxic myths passed down as if they were fact, but they couldn't be further from the truth. So let me ask you something. If your body still responds to touch, why ignore it? What if that response is a signal, not of weakness, but of something still alive, still vital, still worth protecting? In the next few minutes, I'll show you how breaking free from these myths can change the way you see your health, your pleasure, and your power, starting today. If your desires haven't disappeared, why do so many men feel ashamed of something so natural? Why do they hide it, fear it, or think it's wrong? The answer isn't what you think, and the consequences are more serious than you realize in this conversation. I'm going to expose 6 of the most common and dangerous myths about masturbation that are silently undermining the health of older men. And I'll show you what the science really says, so you can make decisions based on facts, not fear. And just a few minutes from now, I'll reveal one deeply ingrained myth that may be the reason your performance has changed, even if your hormones are perfectly normal. Stay with me, this could change how you see yourself and your health for good. Before we deep in, if you're a man over 60 who cares about staying informed, confident, and in control of your health, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss another video made specifically for you. And if this topic resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0, and let me know how I can better serve you all right now. Let's get into the truth, starting with the most common and damaging myth of them all. Myth number 1. This belief has been quietly haunting men for generations, and it's time we finally put it to rest. With real science, real clarity, and no shame. Myth 1. Masturbation lowers testosterone. I've heard this one more times than I can count. A man sits in my office, 65, maybe 72, looking a little embarrassed. He leans in and whispers, "Doc, be honest. Is this making me lose testosterone?" He's talking about masturbation, and behind that question is a quiet fear, a fear that this private habit, something that's brought him release or comfort, is now somehow stealing his masculinity. Let me tell you what I tell him. That fear is based on a myth, not medicine. There is no scientific evidence showing that masturbation lowers your testosterone levels over time. In fact, when you become sexually aroused, your testosterone actually goes up temporarily after orgasm. It returns to your baseline. That's it. There's no long-term drain, no depletion, no weakening of your hormonal foundation. Your body knows how to regulate itself, and touching yourself doesn't throw that off. But here's the real danger of this myth. It's not what it does to your body, it's what it does to your mind. I've seen men who stop masturbating out of fear, who carry guilt for something completely natural, and over time that shame chips away at their self-worth. They start doubting their vitality. They believe they're broken, and that belief that can do more damage than anything physical. I understand where this fear comes from. Generations of men were taught that masturbation was something shameful or childish, something to be hidden, but the science doesn't support that. What it does support is this healthy sexual expression, whether with a partner or by yourself, can be part of a balanced life at any age.
If you're still worried about low testosterone, get it checked, but don't assume that something natural is the cause, just because it feels taboo. Now, if that one surprised you, wait until you hear the next myth. It's something so many men believe, especially after 60, and it can shake your confidence in the bedroom. even when your body is working just fine. Let's talk about the fear no one likes to admit. The idea that masturbation causes erectile dysfunction. The truth behind that may surprise you even more if you're still here and this message is resonating with you. Go ahead and type the number 1 in the comments to let me know you're listening now.
Let's keep going and dive into the next myth. 2. Masturbation causes erectile dysfunction. This one hits home for a lot of men I talk to, especially those in their 60s and beyond. There's often a moment of hesitation. Then the question comes, could this be why I can't get or keep it up? There's usually shame in their voice, like they've done something wrong, and I can feel the weight of that anxiety. The belief that masturbating something they may have done for decades is now somehow the reason they're struggling in the bedroom. I want to say this clearly. Masturbation does not cause erectile dysfunction. In fact, quite the opposite. The ability to get an erection during masturbation often shows that the physical mechanisms are still working. Your blood flow, nerves, and hormonal balance are intact if you can get an erection on your own. But struggle during sex, the issue may not be your body. It might be your mind. Now there is a nuance here that matters. If you've been watching a lot of pornography, especially the kind that's fast-paced or extreme, your brain can get used to that specific kind of stimulation. It's not the masturbation itself. It's the environment around it, and for some men this leads to difficulty getting aroused by real-life intimacy. It's what we call porn-induced desensitization. And yes, it's real, but that's not the same as saying masturbation is the cause of ED. I've helped many older men untangle this confusion. We look at how they're engaging with themselves. Are they relaxed, rushed, disconnected? Often just adjusting habits and addressing the mental pressure can bring back function and confidence. The human body is capable of healing and adapting even in your 70s or 80s. You just have to understand it, not fear it. And if you're able to achieve erections during masturbation but struggle with a partner, you're not broken. That's information. That's your body telling you it still works. You just need to reconnect the dots between arousal, intimacy, and self-rust. But there's another belief that digs even deeper, not just into performance, but into morality. A belief that even if your body works fine, the act itself is something to feel guilty about, and that guilt, it can be far more toxic than most people realize. Let's talk about that next myth. 3. It's immoral or shameful at my age. This one is perhaps the most deeply rooted and the most painful. I can't tell you how many men I've spoken to, good men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who carry this quiet, heavy guilt about something they've done in private for most of their lives, not because it's hurt anyone, not because it's caused them physical harm, but because somewhere along the way they were taught that touching themselves was sinful, weak, or something to be ashamed of. Especially as they grew older, it breaks my heart to see how many men carry this shame like a secret weight. Sometimes they don't even realize it's there. They just feel off, disconnected, anxious, emotionally distant. And when we start talking about their sexual health, the truth slowly rises to the surface, that feeling that they're somehow doing something wrong just by responding to their own body. Let me be very clear. Your desire doesn't retire when you turn 60. You don't suddenly lose the need for connection, pleasure, or release. You don't become less human. The need for touch, for comfort, for a moment of peace, it doesn't vanish with age. If anything, it becomes more meaningful. I've seen widowers, men who've lost their lifelong partners and still crave that intimacy, that sense of closeness. Masturbation for some becomes a quiet form of healing. It doesn't replace a person, but it can ease the ache of loneliness, and yet, many of these men feel like they're doing something wrong simply for having those feelings. But here's the truth. There's nothing immoral about caring for yourself. There's nothing shameful about responding to a body that still feels guilt. Not pleasure is what robs men of peace, and if you've carried that weight, it's never too late to put it down. Now, what if I told you that the fear of guilt isn't the only thing getting in the way? Some men are terrified that masturbation is ruining their relationship, making them emotionally distant or less connected. Let's take that one head on, because the truth might actually surprise you if you're still with me and finding these insights meaningful. Type the number 1 in the comments. So I know you're here and engaged. Let's keep going now and move into myth. Number 4. Myth 4. It makes you less interested in your partner. This one hits a nerve for a lot of men, especially those in long-term relationships. I've sat across from husbands who've been married for 40 years, and you can hear the worry in their voice when they ask, "Doc, am I hurting my marriage by doing this?" Sometimes they're afraid their wife will think they've lost interest. Sometimes they fear that they're betraying her. Other times, they just don't understand why they still feel desire when things in the bedroom have slowed down. The truth is, masturbation does not mean you've fallen out of love with your partner. It doesn't mean you're unfaithful, and it definitely doesn't mean something is wrong with your relationship. In fact, it often means the opposite. You're still in touch with your body, your needs, your vitality. As we age, the dynamic of intimacy shifts. Maybe your partner is dealing with menopause, illness, fatigue, or simply a change in desire. Or maybe you are. That doesn't mean you stop needing touch release or a connection with yourself. I've seen couples who've stopped being intimate for months or years, and the unspoken distance that builds can be heartbreaking. But what's worse is when one or both partners feel guilty for having any sexual feeling at all outside of that shared experience. Masturbation, in many cases, helps men feel balanced. It reduces pressure in the relationship and gives space for closeness to grow in other ways. Some couples even find it brings them closer, opening up new conversations, building trust, and allowing both partners to explore intimacy on their own terms. What causes real distance isn't masturbation, it's silence, it's shame, it's assuming the worst instead of speaking honestly.
Still, I understand the fear. When men feel disconnected from their partners, they start questioning everything, including whether something is physically changing in them. They wonder if their sensitivity is fading or if they're becoming numb. And that brings us to the next myth. A concern I hear more and more often, especially from men who say, "I just don't feel as much as I used to." Let's talk about what's really happening. Myth 5. It reduces sensitivity over time. I've had older men come to me worried and frustrated, saying things like, "It just doesn't feel the same anymore," or "It takes longer now and I don't get the same sensation."
They often blame themselves, or more specifically, their masturbation habits. They believe that touching themselves too often or in a certain way has somehow dulled their sensitivity permanently, and that fear can become overwhelming, especially when they're already feeling vulnerable about the changes that come with age. Here's what I tell them. It's not that your body is broken, it's just that your body, like everything else in life, adapts. If you use the same technique over and over, a very tight grip, fast motion, or high-pressure stimulation, your body can become accustomed to that specific pattern. It's not damaging your nerves, but it is training your brain and body to expect a very particular kind of touch. So when you're with a partner, or even when you try something new, it might feel different, less intense, or harder to reach climax. The good news is, this can be reversed. You're not stuck this way. Sensitivity can be improved, but it requires awareness. Sometimes it means slowing down, exploring different sensations, and even just giving yourself time to relearn what feels good. Your nervous system hasn't shut down. It just needs variety, and patience, and age plays a role too. Blood flow decreases, hormone levels shift, and responsiveness may naturally change. That's not your fault. It's just part of being human. What matters is how you respond to those changes. Do you give up, or do you learn to meet your body where it is today with curiosity instead of criticism? Sensitivity isn't just physical, it's emotional too. The way you feel about yourself, the expectations you carry, the pressure you put on each experience, those all play a role, and when you understand that, you stop fighting your body and start listening to it. But for some men, it's not just the feeling they're chasing, it's the frequency they ask. How often is too often? Am I doing this too much? That question is loaded with fear and judgment, so let's tackle it Head on once and for all. Myth 6. It's harmful if done too often. This is the question that lingers in the back of so many men's minds, but most are too embarrassed to ask out loud. How much is too much, they wonder. And underneath that question is something deeper. Am I still in control? Am I crossing a line I can't see? Let me be honest with you, for the vast majority of men, even those in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, masturbation is not harmful. Not physically, not emotionally, not unless it starts getting in the way of your life. I've had patients who masturbate daily, even multiple times a day, and feel energized, focused, and emotionally at ease, and I've had others who do it less frequently but carry enormous guilt, shame, or anxiety around it. The difference isn't how often, it's how it fits into the bigger picture of your life. If you're skipping social events, avoiding intimacy with your partner, or losing interest in other meaningful parts of life because of compulsive behavior, then yes, it might be time to look a little deeper. And that's not about morality, that's about balance. You deserve a life that feels full, not consumed by one single outlet. Interestingly, I've even recommended masturbation as a tool for some of my older patients, particularly those dealing with chronic pelvic or testicular pain. Gentle, regular release can sometimes help reduce tension, improve sleep, and support emotional regulation. It's not something to fear. It can actually be part of a healthy, self-aware routine, but you have to be honest with yourself. Is this helping you feel better, or are you using it to avoid something deeper? Because the answer to that question holds more truth than any number. And if you've ever wondered whether this private part of your life is something to be hidden, feared, or outgrown, then I hope this has given you a new way to think about it, because what's at stake here isn't just habit, it's self-respect, peace of mind, and your overall quality of life now. Before we wrap this up, I want to leave you with something important. One final message every man over 60 deserves to hear, especially when it comes to sex, aging, and the power of reclaiming your health without shame. Conclusion: if you've made it this far, I want to thank you not just for listening, but for having the courage to confront a topic that most people your age were never encouraged to talk about. For many men over 60, masturbation is wrapped in layers of guilt, misunderstanding, and silence, and yet it remains one of the most personal and misunderstood aspects of men's health. We've walked through 6 powerful myths together: the fear that it lowers testosterone, the belief that it causes erectile dysfunction, the shame that says it's immoral or childish, the worry that it damages your relationship, the concern that it numbs your body, and the pressure that says you're doing it too much. Each of these myths carries weight. Each one, if left unchallenged, can slowly eat away at your confidence, your emotional well-being, even your physical health. I've spent over 3 decades listening to men just like you. Men who've served their families, built their lives, sacrificed quietly, and then one day started to question if their desires, their urges, even their sense of masculinity were still acceptable. And what I've learned is, this aging doesn't take away your right to feel. It doesn't erase your need for connection or your ability to care for your own body. You don't owe anyone an apology for being human. Masturbation isn't a sign of weakness or loneliness. It's a form of self-awareness, and for many a pathway to healing, especially in later years, when intimacy may look different than it once did. If you've been living under the weight of these myths, I hope this helped lift some of that burden. I hope it gave you permission to see yourself fully honestly, without shame. Your health matters. Your mind, your body, your emotions. They all deserve care, and whether you choose to masturbate or not, that choice should come from understanding, not fear. Because you're not just older, you're wiser now. And it's never too late to learn something new about the person you've been living with your whole life yourself. If this message spoke to you or helped you see things a little differently, please take a moment to like, share, and leave a comment below. Your voice matters, and you never know who else might need to hear this today.